Welcome everybody. Uh, Welcome everybody to this first session of Code Club. We're very glad you all could make it. So we have a bit of an introduction to go through today. So we'll start by the organizers introducing ourselves. So we have 5 organizers. So I'll start. So my name is Jelmer. I'm at the MCIC in Worcester, so that's the Molecular and Cellular Imaging Center. I'm originally from the Netherlands. I did my PhD in Sweden on speciation, genomics, and crows. And then I went to North Carolina for a couple of postdocs, and then I moved here to work at the MCIC in Worcester in June of this year. And I provide bioinformatics support for MCIC members, and I also do some teaching. So let's go down the list alphabetically.
Sure. So I'm Jessica Pepperstone. I'm an assistant professor in horticulture and crop science and food science and technology. And I think different than the other organizers is I am like in no way a bioinformatician. I am just a person who runs a research team that found out that having coding capability really helped us like an enormous amount. And I actually learned more or less how to code as a faculty member. So if we have trainees here who are feeling like they're late to the game, you are certainly much earlier than I am. And so I really, what I like, so my group does a lot of metabolomics work and integration with other omics work. And we found that tools, especially R, have been really helpful for us to do that.
Oh, okay. So my name's Michael Bro. My job is to provide bioinformatics support to faculty and students in the Department of Evolution, Ecology, and Organismal Biology. I am originally from Australia. I did a PhD at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. My accent's all over the place. And I actually started coding and doing a PhD in Edinburgh in computational linguistics. But I later moved over to phylogenetics and bioinformatics. And my main role is to assist graduate students learning to use specific computational and bioinformatic tools for their research, but I also work with PIs. And I also teach a 7-week intro to computation in biology, specifically for incoming EEOB graduate students each year, covering R, Python, and Unix, a bunch of the things that we'll be doing in Code Club.
Hi everybody, I'm Mike Sovic. I'm a research scientist with CAPS, which is the Center for Applied Plant Sciences. My role's actually pretty similar to, in some ways, to Jelmer's and to Michael's. With CAPS, I'm there to try to provide bioinformatics support and just support with working with data in general to our CAPS members. I've been with CAPS just a couple of years. I've been around OSU for a lot longer. I did my graduate work here in evolution, ecology, and organismal biology. I stuck around there and did a postdoc for several years after that. And that was mostly not in my background was actually not bioinformatics. My background's started in field biology and then population genetics and was kind of forced into bioinformatics. I think like lots of us have been. And for me, it's just kind of snowballed from there, and I've really gone down that track. But moved over to the Cancer Center, worked in the genomics core for a couple of years, worked with the College of Pharmacy for a couple of years doing bioinformatics, and now I'm in the plant world.
Okay, my name is Stephen Opio. I'm from MCIC, but I'm based in Columbus. Just in bioinformatics and also biostatistics. I teach statistics every spring. I use mainly R. Also supported bioinformatics and statistics. I started coding when I was doing my PhD at University of Nebraska-Lincoln. So I code using R and Python, and sometimes also use Unix. And I provide also bioinformatics support to students and faculty. Thank you.
Nice. And so we won't have time to go around the entire group, even though that would have been nice. But maybe as a stand-in for that, anyone who wants to introduce themselves in the chat, go ahead. So yeah, so just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. So we'll do one session per week, but currently we are repeating each session twice. We've had a ton of people sign up, which is great. And people, and when we did the poll, a lot of people could only do one of the 2 times, so we decided to do them both. So every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and every Friday at 3 p.m. You can freely choose whichever one works for you on a week-to-week basis. You're not tied to the Friday sessions now. And we'll have a break next week because it's Thanksgiving, and then we'll have 3 more sessions in December, and that's all we have scheduled so far. And you can find the dates if you don't already have them on the link here. And then we will poll you next month for spring semester time. Yeah, I'd also like to mention that this is all very experimental. We're obviously just starting this. None of us has ever done something like this before. So we really need your input and feedback. So general feedback is very much welcome during our after session. You can email us. And also, on a bit of a different note, whenever you're not following, please ask questions. We're trying to have this be suitable and fun for both beginners and people that have more experience with R and other languages. So sometimes if we maybe go a bit too quick, or we're talking about something that we haven't introduced and you don't know what we're talking about, please interrupt with questions. Excuse me. And so general idea with Code Club is to have people have basically ongoing exposure and practice with coding rather than very intensively during a short period. So it won't be particularly intense, just 1 hour per week, but it will hopefully be ongoing for many of you. And we think that can be really useful for learning. And we want to have this highly interactive. Also, we'd like it to be informal and maybe even fun. And also, we, as the organizers, we're going to present the first sessions and probably quite a few sessions. But if you are interested in presenting a session or just co-presenting a session, if you don't want to do it all by yourself, please let us know, and that would be great. And so the structure of each session, except today's a little different, but generally the way we would like to do it is to start with an introduction where we introduce some kind of topic that a particular session is going to be about. Then we'll do a breakout room part, which is at least 20 minutes, and then we'll come back together and do some sort of recap. And there's generally going to be some sort of introductory homework, which is essentially optional, but if you do want to look at the material already and get a bit familiar with it, and we had several people ask us about that, then that's possible, and we will put up the material for each session at least several days in advance, and from now on we'll also send out an email every time the material is up, so you can have a look at that. Sometimes there's maybe even some more explicit homework, but we'll definitely point that out. And then generally there'll be some bonus material too. So if you're keen on doing more, then generally the sessions will contain some bonus material that we're not really getting to. For instance, today's session has some explicit bonus material that we won't be able to get to in this session. But if it interests you, then please go through it. It has both sort of some information and exercise and solutions. So you should be able to learn something from that too. Yeah, and then today, obviously, we have a much longer intro, so we'll still do a breakout and recap session, but that will be a bit shorter. And some like guidelines for Zoom. So again, if you have any questions, please ask them. You can either unmute yourself or put them in the chat. Camera on really helps for interacting. And that's particularly true in the breakout rooms, but we'll have some more breakout rooms guidelines after this. And yeah, there's also a couple of ways to you can communicate with icons basically. So if you click on participants in at least for me, it's on the bottom of my screen. Then you'll see all the participants, but also you'll see some of these icons. And I guess most of you are familiar with this. And raise hand is one of them, the little blue hand on the left. So whenever you have some sort of issue and you can't just ask a question or put it in a chat, you just want some help in one way or the other, then you can raise your hand and we'll check in with you. And then also one icon I would ask you to use if needed is the go slower button. So if the presenter, if I'm going too fast in what I'll do in a little bit. Then please press the go slower button. And there's also a request for coffee breaks. Unfortunately, we won't have time for coffee breaks. Breakout room guidelines. Jessica, do you want to do that again? I put some bullet points, but you can say whatever you want to.
Yeah, thanks, Yelmer. So we're hoping, I think a lot of us are used to like maybe learning in the classroom. And I think that this will be sort of a combination of formal and informal learning. And so when you're in the breakout rooms, we have some sort of guidelines we're looking to set. So we expect you all to be kind to each other. I guess that's the first thing. I'm not sure that's something I need to say. But we expect also that there will be people here who are at really different skill levels. And so we hope that this is an opportunity for people who know less about a particular topic to learn, and maybe for those who know more as an opportunity to do some teaching. So when you get into your breakout rooms, I'd recommend that you introduce yourself to each other and you turn on your camera if you feel comfortable. I would say try your best to be friendly and patient. You want to go through the material, but there's no like fastest through the material award. So go through it, and I think with the goal of trying to get everybody in your group to be able to be working through the exercises. And we will have put together like some extra exercises in case things go faster than we expect, or for people who have a bunch of experience already. I would also recommend that you have somebody in your group who likes to share their screen. It's really hard to follow like someone working in coding without seeing it. And so I would recommend you should all have the capability in the breakout room to share your screen. So I would recommend to do that. And then if you have a question, what you can do is not the raise hand button, but there's a Zoom ask for help button. Michael, do you remember where it is?
It's just at the bottom, sort of in the middle. There's a big question mark on it, and you only see it once you're in the breakout room.
Okay, so there'll be this ask for help button. And so say you're in a group and you've tried to work through something and you haven't been able to do it, and maybe you've tried to Google and you haven't been able to do it and you want someone to help. If you click that button, then one of the organizers will come into your room and help you. And I think what we've decided also is that some of us will kind of travel around and sort of see how things are going. I think that's all I have for breakout rooms.
Yes, I just saw in the chat, Martin asked, okay, Martin's now seeing the go slower button. And then I think Michael asked how it works. Well, the way it works, if you click the button, it will show up next to your name. And I think it will, everyone can see that. So Jessica just pushed the go slower, I see. And one of the two of me also just pressed that button. So it's
I pushed it a little bit ago too.
So it's next to my name now. So we should try to keep as organizers, we should try and keep an eye on those icons next to people's names. And then if you click it again, it goes away. And the same is true with the raise hand. So we'll show.
So you're saying, so inside the participants box, is that where we see it?
Yeah.
Okay, exactly. So that has to be open. I got it. All right.
Exactly.
Thanks.
All right. So today, oh, I think I skipped one. Oh yeah.
Yelma, do you want to do this poll?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it's just one question, whether you are working or intend to work locally or at OSC. We'd like to get a feel for that. But so if you have a problem with your local R in R studio, and we've already had a couple people with that on Wednesday, then it's probably best to switch to OC for the time being, because troubleshooting that might take a bit of time. And yeah, so so it's exactly the same as on Wednesday. I think 3/4 plan to work locally.
Right.
Yeah, so in practice, it seems that most often when things don't work, and what specifically won't work is installing or loading the tidyverse, you're probably going to need to update R. And it seems that if you're under 3.6 of R version 3.6, you're in the risk zone. I thought I had something. I thought I had something more. Oh, that's here on top. I missed this. So please, for now, open class.osc.edu, even if you want to work locally. And I will in a minute go through the steps of logging in there and getting an RStudio session over there. So then you know how that works, which is useful to know anyway. And also, if then something doesn't work in your local R, after that you can switch to your local R. But if then something doesn't work, you can switch back to the OSC RStudio. So please open that website, and then we'll go through the steps there in a minute. And then today's session is at this address. Maybe Jessica, can you put that in the chat as well? And what we'll do today also is go through a couple of steps together, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Yeah, and then website layout, I have that as a reminder to myself. So I will also, let's see here, I will just very briefly now show you what the web page looks like and what the different things going on here are. So this is the page for today's session. So there was some kind of homework, just to set up, and then these are the different things we'll walk through. On the right-hand side, there's also a table of contents to navigate. Then there's a bunch of blue boxes. The blue boxes basically have some background information, which you can read at your own convenience, and I'll mention some of that as I go through it as well. And then the sort of main section is mostly some instructions of things that we're going to do together, at least today. And then in gray, we have some code boxes, and we're going to run this code. You can either just type whatever is there in your RStudio, or you can select and copy it. You can also use these little copy boxes over here in the top right. And in these code boxes, sometimes there is also actual output from R. So for instance, when we will load the tidyverse, we should see this output. So that's with a pound sign and a greater than sign is output from R that you should see after you do these commands. And then finally, there's a couple of exercises. So there's one sort of main exercise today that we should get through. And then there's in the bonus material is another exercise, and those are also in blue boxes, but with these little puzzle icons. And then the exercises, let me go back to one. The questions are over here, and then there's both some hints and solutions. And yeah, the hints you're welcome to look at any rate. If you, for instance, are curious what you could do besides the approach that you actually took. And of course, you're also welcome to look at the solutions. So that's what the website looks like. And now I will log into OSC. So hopefully you guys all went to the my.osc.edu, and then you should log in with your OSC credentials. And once you've done that, you, oh, actually, sorry, I made a mistake here. Did I put the right address in this slide? Well, whatever. It's class.osc.edu, sorry. Yeah. So you go to class.osc.edu, not my.osc.edu. So after you went to class.osc.edu and logged in, you have interactive apps here at the top. And then, so click that and then click on RStudio server form. And then you should get this tiny little form with only 2 things that you can select. And if all is well, you should have Code Club in class materials as one of the options. If you don't, then yeah, please let me know at some point. And then you're somehow not a member of Code Club yet, and we'll have to fix that. So select Code Club in this dropdown if it's not already selected, and then number of hours, either 1 or 2 will work in this case. And then click launch. And then what you'll get is this window, which in your case might have only one of these boxes. These are older sessions. And right now my session request is queued. And then just in a moment, it should start, because we actually we reserved a whole bunch of cores at the times that we're holding this Code Club. So we should, in principle, be directed to those and not have to wait.
Yelmer, while we're waiting for this to queue, do you want to talk about the difference between using R and RStudio?
Oh yeah, I can do that again.
Now that it's started.
Yeah, but I can definitely talk about that a bit. So so RStudio is an IDE, so an integrative development environment, which is just a way to run R, a platform to run R, and you don't need to use RStudio when you work in R, but it's just a very convenient way. So while I talk about it more, let me connect to it. So once the bar at the top here is green, and your session is running, you can click in the bottom of that little box to connect to RStudio server, and that will then connect you to the RStudio server, and you'll be inside of RStudio. And so a little bit more about RStudio then. There are other ways to run R. You can just run it without any IDE and write your scripts in a separate text editor. And the editor, you can also have other IDEs, but sort of the default choice and a very good choice is RStudio. It's great software to run R in, with lots of convenience options. And in fact, the first thing that we're going to do now is something that is RStudio specific, in fact. And so let me reorganize this. So yeah, if you're wanting to work locally, then please go ahead and switch to your local R. I hope you did manage to get into this session, but now we can you can work wherever you want. You can continue working here at OSC or locally. And I actually forgot to do this. I need to first delete the things that we did on Wednesday, so that we're in a similar environment. And if you got into OSC, into RStudio at OSC, you probably had this this Code Club file open. That one you can ignore. You can keep it open or you can close it. I will close it right now. a bit more space. And so the first, and I'll also can move all these bars around. So I'm just gonna move this so I have a bit more space in my console. So the first thing we're going to do is to create an RStudio project. And RStudio projects are, there's some information about them in the blue box, but they're just a really neat way to organize your work. In particular, when you're working on multiple sort of small letter projects, so multiple research projects, switching between them is very convenient because it will, when you have an RStudio project, it will remember all the scripts and so on that you had open. And when you switch between those projects, it will restart R for you and open the things that you had open when you worked on that project previously. And it can be quite handy when you work on a bunch of different projects at the same time. And the even more important advantage of projects is that they basically allow you not to have to set your working directory. And that's a good thing because when you set your working directory, you generally have to use an absolute path, and that's not very portable. So even if you move the folder that you're working in within your computer, you need to adjust that. And it's certainly true if you're working between different computers or sharing your scripts with other people, they then need to change that. So those are some reasons why projects are a good way to work with RStudio. So in order to create them, if you're working locally, then please start by making a directory that you would like to use for Code Club. So wherever you want on your computer, can be on your desktop or anywhere else, make a directory where we put all our Code Club things in. If you're here at OSC, then you don't have to do anything. And then once you have that directory, then we're gonna create a new project. So I'm gonna click on File, and then New Project, and then we're gonna do Existing Directory. And if you're working locally, then please select the directory that you just made for Code Club. And if you're at OSC, then keep this default selection, because we are already in a Code Club specific directory. It put you in a Code Club directory within your regular home directory at OSC. So that's all we need basically, and it will be indicated here with a tilde, which stands for home. But again, excuse me. Again, it's not your regular OSC home directory. It's one within the Code Club project. So then, once you have the project, it will restart R. So we'll always restart R whenever you go into a new or different. Yes, we'll close this into a new or different project, and that's a feature, not a bug, because it will avoid crosstalk basically between your different projects. So yeah, now we have our project, and the next thing we're going to do is type a couple of commands to orient ourselves. So we can see where we are with the get WD command. So we're at section 2 now on the web page. And then we start by typing the get WD command, which will get the working directory. So you should now see that either the directory that you created, and if you're at OSC, you'll see that indeed you are in your home directory, and then within your home directory, you're in a directory that OSC created for you automatically for the Code Club project. And then if we type the dir command, then we'll see the files that are in this directory, and then one of the ones that should show up is this R project file. So when you create an R project, that's the main thing that happens. It creates a little hidden file. So it starts with a dot rproj, which contains some information with the project, and that sort of marks it as a starting point for your working directory. And now we will create 2 new directories. So one for this session and then one for a data set that we're going to download. So we do dir.create, and then at S01, we will call this directory S01 for session 1. And then we'll also create the directory data/birds. And one thing to note is that even if you work within Windows, you might be used to backslashes. You can use forward slashes within R. And then because we're creating 2 levels of directories at once, we need to use the recursive is true argument for that to work. And then, so far I've been typing this in the console. And if you also did that, then now should be the time to create a script. So we're going to do file, and then new file, and then our script. And so from now on, we're going to type our commands in the script, which is a good way to keep track of what we're doing. And I'm going to start by saving the script. And I will save it in the S01 directory that we just created. And then the first line in our script is going to be library tidyverse. So hopefully you've already installed the tidyverse if you're working locally. Yeah, this will be sort of a test. This is the main test, whether or not it's going to work for you. So, and if you're at OC, then you don't need to install it. It has already been installed along with many packages. It's part of what's available at OC by default. So type library tidyverse and see if that works. And if it worked, it should give you quite a bit of output, but it should be this output, the same output that I put here on the website. So it should say that it attached 8 packages, and the tidyverse is really a meta package. And when you load the tidyverse, it will load the 8 core packages within the tidyverse, and it will also report some conflicts. So hopefully that worked for you. And again, if you're working locally and this didn't work for you, then try to switch to doing it at OC, because there it will definitely work. And what we're going to do now is get the data set that we're going to start working with in the first couple sessions of CoClub. And that is a bird data set. So it's some data from the Great Backyard Bird Count, which is this annual event where people are asked to look at birds in their backyards or somewhere else if they want to, and report all the birds that they see to a website. And so they have a pretty big database of bird records from this count. And so it was about 3 gigabytes large, which was a bit too big, we thought, to start working with. So what we did was we selected the records from Ohio. So that file, and we put that on the GitHub repo for the site. So that file we're going to download now. Since this is quite a bit of code, I'm just going to copy the whole thing and paste it into the script. Oh yeah, and one thing that I forgot to mention, if you're new to R, so when you type code in your script rather than in the console, in order to send it to the console, you can either click run here in the top right. I can just run it again, or you can press Control Enter, and that will work whenever you're somewhere in the line. Doesn't matter where you are. So that's how you can run things in your script. So what we're going to do now is we have the file that we're going to download, and we put that in a variable name. And then we have the file that we want to save it as locally or at OC. And then we're going to download it, and we specify the URL that the file comes from and the destination file, which are these variables that we've just assigned. And if you then send that, then it will download this file of a bit over 40 megabytes. and we should have it. And then the last thing we're going to do is to read the data. So we will use a function. So that's why we loaded the tidyverse. We're going to use a function from the readr package, which is one of those core 8 tidyverse packages that we just loaded, namely read_tsv. So our data is stored in a tab separated values file. So we're going to use this convenience function, which then expects tab separated values. And then as the file, we're going to specify that same variable that we with the file name. And we can run that. And that's, again, going to be quite chatty. And it tells us a bit about how it read it in. And that's actually something you might want to have a bit of a closer look at. So this is all for us together. So I hope everyone is able to make it this far. So then the exercise is just to basically have a look at your birds object. So your birds object is now a data frame with the bird data in it. So use some of the functions that you might know to explore just some basic characteristics of the data set. And in particular, if you have time, then pay attention to the data types. So that's here in the second point, pay attention to the data types of the different columns. And then if you want to answer a concrete question, then maybe check how many rows and how many columns the data set has. And if you still have time, then maybe try to look a bit at the data set, see what's there, see if you can understand it, and what are some of the questions you might want to explore with this data set. So we're gonna keep using this data set for at least a couple Code Club sessions, and we'll do some data wrangling and try to answer some basic questions about stuff in the data set. So please have a look and try to think of some questions that you think would be fun to answer. And then again, there are hints and solutions, although that's quite limited in this case, below. So you can expand that and have a look at it. So then I think we should be ready to go into the breakout rooms.
Okay, I'm going to
seeing some stuff going on in the in the chat.
So I'm going to send everybody off to breakout rooms right now. You'll be in groups of like 3 or 4. And remember, you can ask for help with the Ask for Help button from in there. If you got a bit lost in that, hopefully your roommates can help you when you get there. And I should also say that at any time you can leave your breakout room and you will come back into the main session. And so the organizers will be hanging out in the main session. You can ask us for help there if you like. And then when you want to go back to your breakout room, you just click the breakout rooms button at the bottom of your screen, and it remembers what room you've been assigned to, and it will take you back to the room you were just in. So that's another way to get help if you need to. So now I'm going to press the magic button, and it will take a few seconds, and you should end up in a whole new room.
So Michael, should we go at all into this organizers breakout room or not? Why are we even being invited to those?
I just have that set there so that
so you can place us in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
no, you can leave that.
Yeah, I'm just not going to go into it at all.
Okay.
But my my alter ego did, so he has to leave. Okay, so it looked like at least one person was quite lost, right? Should we visit Margot? Should we visit her room?
Yeah, I'm not sure if she got it to work or not, but yeah, we can. You can send me if you want.
Sure.
Okay, I'll try that.
Or I can jump in. I know Margot a little bit. She's been in a couple. Do you know Margot?
Somebody had a problem, I
You
think.
can do it, Mike, if you want. It's up to you.
Doesn't matter. I mean, I can. Like I said, she's been in a few workshops that I've done. I know her a little bit. She's actually from IT. She's part of CFAES's IT group.
Huh. Okay.
Okay, Mike, I'll move you to that room.
Okay.
It worked.
Yeah,
It's
excellent.
gone.
Nice. How many people do we have now?
The max was 36. So 36 plus 32 minus 10 or 11, no, 12, because there's 2 Yelmers.
Exactly.
So that's good. I mean,
There are mainly
That's-
groups of 4 and there's a couple of 3. It's the way it just worked out this time.
68. So we're basically at like 50, 56 people have come the first week.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think like, it didn't seem like on Wednesday that anybody was like, oh, this is way too easy.
No, I don't think so.
No, it
No.
didn't.
Yeah, because I think they mainly start because of the version of RStudio and R. And I'm just happy that German said them so that they can start from the OSU computer is better that way. So that when they get stuck, we can help them later.
Yeah, it's good that there's that option. Yeah, that's definitely true. So I'm
Help them to make sure that everybody's on par with the versions of this R and RStudio.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the email we'll send around, we can say a bit about that too.
But even for experienced users, like I never use R projects. So even like learning about R projects is like, usually there's like some tidbit that's useful, even if you're experienced.
Yeah, everyone does things differently. So, Michael, could you put me in a breakout room? Maybe just I might just try and go down all, although I might not make it. But maybe just start with breakout room 1.
Yeah, you could distribute
from the
if you-
feedback that
You can just distribute and see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll send you all off one after the other.
Okay.
Yoma, you're still here.
Yeah, I didn't get any invites. Or maybe it's because, let me see. Oh, okay, there we go. Maybe it's because I wonder if it was, now I see I'm invited to room 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, Mike, so did that work?
What's that?
Did that work?
Yeah, they got it. Actually, they did most of it, so they were getting it taken care of.
Okay.
Great.
I've just been moving people into various rooms.
So have we had requests for help, or you just?
No, we're just like zooming around. So do you want to go into a room? Just
Sure, if there's one open.
See what's going on. Okay, I'm going to move you to room 6.
Okay, I went to a room where everybody was like, they were done already.
Oh, really?
I don't know. They were like, yeah, we're good. We're fine. So I was
Okay.
like, okay, well, I'll leave then. If there's
They even did the bonus stuff?
They seemed to not, that like they were uninterested in having me there.
Yeah.
So I just like, okay, we can chat if you want, but we don't have to.
I looked at one of those videos from the paper that started us all up, and the guy there said usually when he visits a room they say go away, we don't need you. So that's good. So want to visit another room?
Sure.
I can now I have to find you and move you to room 7.
I'm muted every time I come back in. I keep,
How are they doing?
they were just kind of chatting.
Okay.
But
We haven't had any requests for help. And Jess went into a room where she said everyone was done.
oh wow.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there's just 2 more rooms that haven't been visited yet. Shall I stick you in one of those?
Yeah, sure.
So they were doing well. One person had forgotten to load tidyverse,
Oh, okay.
but then we got that fixed. So yeah.
So
Go
I've
to
just been moving
next.
people through the rooms. There's just one room that hasn't been visited yet. Do you want me to
Okay.
put you in there?
Yeah, sure.
First, so room 9. First I have to find you. So did you get an invitation to go to room 9?
Oh, so they don't pop up, but when I then click on join breakout room, they come. So yeah, I did. I'll go in.
Oh.
All right, I think we have everyone back. Welcome back, everyone. I know this was not very much breakout room time. We're definitely gonna try and have substantially longer breakout room times in next sessions. But I hope you still had a little bit of time to look at the data. And we dropped in some rooms and it seemed like things were going well and there's some troubleshooting going on. So were there any groups that managed to explore the data a little bit? And so maybe you want to share with us what you did.
I'll go. So this is Matt Teagarden. We explored the data a little bit by looking at the dimensions of the data set using DIM, and saw that it was over 300,000 rows, 12 columns. We then took a look at the first couple lines of it using head to see sort of what the column titles were and what the different data classes were. We looked at some of the genus and species in there using the unique command. And then we also looked at the date range using range.
Nice. You probably found out that it's always in February.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do it every year in February only. Yeah. Cool. And anyone who had an alternative approach, other things they want to mention? Or anyone that had some questions they are interested in with this data set in looking at, like, what are the most common birds and so on.
what was that range? How far did it go back year-wise? I don't remember.
1998.
98. Okay, so it's every year since 98.
Yeah. I think I'd be interested in looking at like the most common bird per state.
Unfortunately, we only have Ohio here.
Well, I mean, all of data exists, right?
Yeah,
But-
that's true. That's true. We could reintroduce the other data. Yeah, because that is interesting indeed. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think at some point it might be worth. I mean, maybe we could try that. It's just such a big data set. Like it's about 3 gigs, the full data set, the file, and so it might be a little bit tough to work with it in an hour session. Well, in like a 20-minute breakout session, because it might take some time to get it loaded in and that sort of thing. But we could play around with that. At a minimum, we could look at county level, probably if there's
Right.
do we have counties in here? I don't know.
Well, at least there's some like there's this. It's a bit weird. I didn't fully understand it. It has a zip code in some cases, but not in others, and then some. There's some geographical indicators, but we actually have the coordinates. It definitely has the coordinates. So with that, we can do stuff too. Yeah, and I guess one option, because I guess with this just Ohio, we could look at across year stuff, and then one option would be for the full data set, or if we want to look at between state stuff, we could, and we don't want the whole data set, we could extract 1 year, but then all the states, I guess, to compare between states. Yeah.
Mhm.
And did anyone have any?
I would be curious to know, do you know the film The Big Year
Yeah.
with Jack Black and Steve Martin, where the goal is they're competing to see who can see the most birds a year? That was supposed to have happened in 2004. So I'd be curious to know how many birds were sighted in Ohio in 2004, but that's a pretty basic question.
Rachel, or if like that has inspired a new generation of bird watching.
Yes.
It's kind of a fun
Yes.
movie.
Have the numbers exploded since then?
Well, I think the number of bird watchers have certainly exploded this year. And I'm a bird watcher, so I keep an eye on these things, and it seems like a lot of people have gotten interested this year with the lockdown. New York Times certainly has ran a number of articles like, "Oh, you're in lockdown, so you can look birds in your yard," that sort of stuff. The birds are not in lockdown; they keep moving. Pay attention. But yeah, that movie was it's also pretty neat. It's actually relatively I don't know, accurate, like in portraying birders. Yeah.
So
Are the identities of the observers in this data set, are they in there? Does it say who? No, it's just the location. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, with the location, it could be a fun exercise. I know I'm always trying to improve my stringer knowledge of like how to work with strings. So like decoupling the zip codes from the locality could be a good exercise.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it doesn't have the zip code.
Matt, that you could have a code club session on that.
You're up. You're up next week.
No, not next week, but I mean, eventually. I think our goal is to do some, like set some fundamentals so that we feel like we get at least people kind of on the same page with some basic stuff, and then move into doing things like that. Like that would be useful for anybody who's dealing with like a character data, words data. And maybe Yelmer, I will, just before we have to close for today, make like a pitch for so next week we have Thanksgiving, so nothing next week, but the week after I will be going over what I'm calling core dplyr verbs. So if you've ever like imported your data and then before you were going to do your analysis, you've had like big problems of kind of wrangling it into the format that you want, you'll find that dplyr, which is a package within the tinyverse, is really useful. So we'll be going over functions like filter, select, like mutate, arrange, some of those kinds of functions, which I think will be really, these are functions I use like every day. So that's next time.
Cool. Yeah, so I think that's all. Am I forgetting anything that we should announce? Well, I guess I'll mention, we'll send around an email in a couple of days for sure, when the recording's up, to point people towards that, including the people that weren't able to attend today. And then, yeah, we'll send around another email at least several days before the next session in 2 weeks with the when the new page is up for the session, so you can have a look at that if you want. So I think
Yeah, thanks for the input about
that's
what you think might be interesting about this data set, because then I can try to incorporate that in the next activity.
yeah, cool. All right, so thanks everyone for coming.
There's a question in the chat about ArcGIS. It's just kind of a general thing. So if anybody needs to jump off, it's a little bit after 4. But yeah, I don't know anything about installing ArcGIS on OSU computers, but if anybody does,
Me neither, but I do know that R actually has quite good GIS capabilities, and I think also that that's been a lot of development in that in that area. So we could answer questions that you might think of as things you should do in ArcGIS or another GIS program. We could actually do things like that in R, and we can definitely map pretty easily. Put things on a map, see where all the sightings are.
Yeah. So if folks need to go ahead, but if anybody has any questions or was running into problems you felt like didn't get solved, if you want to stick around, we can try and workshop with you. Otherwise, have a good weekend. Happy Friday.